What's going on, guys? So in today's video we're going to talk about buying a used motorcycle. I'm going to kind of give you the idea of what the dealer goes through to make sure you get a bike that's going to be reliable, safe, and worth the money. And then also I'm going to talk about what you should look for when you're buying a used bike from a dealer or from a private seller. So I've got a 2016 ZX-10R from Northeast Georgia Motorsports. I've snuck it out through the back here. Basically, we're going to talk about what to look for when getting a used bike. One of the benefits of buying a used bike is you're not paying the full bike price, right? You're not paying for the ridiculous freight setup fee, sales tax is going to be massive. You're getting a good deal, right? Most of the time, these bikes, they can be slightly used, they can be high mileage. It's not like buying a car. It is very similar, yes, but some of the things you're looking at are a little bit different. Most of your cars, you can find a used car for as low as 100 miles or 100,000 miles. With bikes, it's kind of similar. You can find them as low as 10, 100 miles. They just got it, they didn't like it, they're trying to sell it. Or I've seen them go as high as 30, 40, even 50,000 miles for a used motorcycle. Again, the mileage is kind of, it's going to vary a little bit because are you looking at a sport bike? Are you looking at a cruiser? Are you looking at a dual sport? All these things are, taken into consideration. If you're buying an off-road bike, how many hours are on that engine? Let's say you're buying a used bike from a dealer. Obviously, it goes through a 21-point inspection. Most of the time, they do a full maintenance on it. So you're talking fluids, change of fluids, top off of fluids. They do the whole 9 yards. They check tire pressure. They check tire wear. They check all the lights. They make sure all the instruments are working. They make sure the chain is tight. It's not loose. It's not too slack or too tight. They check the sprockets, make sure the teeth are in good condition. They're going to check the radiator hoses, the casings, make sure nothing is scratched or it's been laid down. Bar ends, that's a good thing to look at when you're looking at bikes that have been laid over. Those are usually the first things to get scuffed up. Plastics, are the tabs broken? Are they all there? We're talking, lever play, throttle play. Do all the brakes work? Is everything tight? Is everything nice? Any of the body parts loose? These are some of the things that you just got to look at. Is the steering head, the bearings, are they tight? Is there any play? Most importantly, does it turn on and start, right? So guys, I'm going to throw my jacket on here. We're going to get this bike warmed up. We're going to go for a ride, talk about some other things, and get into buying a used bike. So one of the other big things you're looking at is when you start the bike, is it idling correctly? Is it too high, too low? Is it smoking? Right? Is it making a weird noise? These are just some little things that obviously, you just want to double check. But make sure the throttle comes back to the closed position. It returns freely. Make sure there's no slack or no play, and it obviously revs up in accordance to the input you're giving it. Most people will let you ride their motorcycles if you have cash in hand, or if you're at the dealer, you just sign a waiver, a rider liability form, which I done with NGM, right? Even though we work together on some things, I still have to go through the steps. And you also should have your class M license. So let's go ahead, hop on it. We'll ride. We'll talk about some things about the bike, what you should look for when you're riding it, and a couple other little things, and we'll go from there. You're feeling for play in the clutch, making sure it's got good release, making sure that when you do pull the clutch in, that the bike isn't grabbing, or it's not in that friction zone area. Coming up to the first intersection, you want to make sure the brakes work right. One good thing I like to do is, with the clutch in, especially if you're on a hill, you can roll back, let off the brake pressure, and make sure that clutch isn't grabbing. You want to take it nice and slow. You don't want to be too crazy with it, because you're really trying to feel any imperfections in the bike or anything in the bike that you may or may not like. As I'm going through the gears here, you want to make sure it goes through all of the gears. The bike may run great, but it may not shift great. Also, while you're shifting and you're riding, obviously you want to keep your eyes on the road, but make sure that all the gauges are working. Make sure the gear indicator's working. Make sure your turn signals are working correctly. Make sure your high and low beams are correctly. Make sure if you have an option to select, rider assist on the bike, that those cycle through correctly. Do you want to make sure you do your research, because a couple newer model ZX10s, the 20, I think 18, 19s, and 20s, they have a quick shifter up and down. This 2016 model, it's only up. So if I go to try to downshift in this thing thinking it'll do it on its own and it doesn't, that may alter my decision making. I may be like, wow, this was not what I thought, and then it just ruins your whole riding experience. If you're buying from a private seller, ask why they're selling it. Why are they getting rid of it? Ask them if there's any issues cosmetically or functionally. You want to make sure the bike's in tip-top shape, and if guys are just selling because they want to get a different bike or because they want to upgrade, all those make sense. But you know, if they say, oh well, I don't like the way it performs, they may not know what's going on with it, and it's good to look in and ask those types of questions. Check what other bikes in this market are going for. So if you're looking at a ZX10, for example, MSRP on these bikes, I forget, you know, what they were new, but they were around that $15,000 range, I believe. You can check NADA guides for pricing and things of that nature. You can check Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, and even Cycle Trader on what bikes with a similar mileage are going for that similar year and color scheme. You want to get a good comparison so you make the best choice when you're buying your used bike. It doesn't hurt to ask friends or fellow riders or someone who may have a little more experience looking at buying a bike. They can give you some insight and some input when you're buying your machine. And also, that's a great tool to use. It's a great opportunity to take someone with you. It takes away a bunch of the nerves, a bunch of the uneasiness you may have when you're talking to someone about a bike, especially when you're a newer rider. When I bought my first R6, I had a buddy that had, you know, plenty of riding experience. You know, he knew what was in a good bike or a bad bike, and I knew I could trust his decision when he made that recommendation. Now that we're at speed, we can also feel, you know, if the suspension is working properly, if the wheels are out of balance. You know, obviously this sport bike is going to have some shakes and some vibrations at speeds, especially on this road. I know this road has a little humps, and you know, it's definitely not the most comfortable bike, but you know, if you're on a smooth surface and you're riding and for some reason it's just all over the place, it should raise some questions. Why is this shaking so much? Why has this got a constant vibration? You know, those are the things you really have to look out for when you're riding these bikes, when you're riding a used bike. Not bad to do a pull like that on this bike. That's making sure nothing is slipping, everything's nice and tight between the throttle, the clutch, the transmission, the sprockets, the chain. It's making sure everything is good, and it's got a good, basically solid connection between the throttle and the tire. Here's a nice little stretch of windy roads. We're making sure the bike, you know, turns in correctly. It doesn't have any wonkiness, right? We want to make sure it's going to set in the corners well, it's going to be responsive, and it's going to do its job. The suspension's going to work. Again, you don't have to go fast. You just have to go the speed of the road, the speed for the corner, and make sure it's going to do its job. The big question, should you buy from a private seller or a dealer? That's going to come down at the end of the day to your preference. If you buy from a dealer, they may offer a warranty, they may offer, you know, a service, and you know that you have got a roadworthy bike that should have zero issues. And especially if you ride it, you can bring any issues up to them and they should fix it for you before you even leave the showroom floor. If you buy from a private seller, you run into those possible issues of not getting a warranty, not knowing if the bike is, you know, properly been checked over. If you're new and you don't have the resources, you know, maybe spending the couple extra dollars at the dealership is the way to go. Again, you're not going to go wrong. You just have to make the right choice for you. And guys, I hope that I have provided you with that information. If you have any other questions about buying a used bike, what you should look for or what you should look out for, drop a comment down below, leave me a question, and I will do my best to answer it. Again, I haven't covered everything, but I feel this is the most covered information you should know when buying a used bike. So I'm going to turn this bike back over to them, and if you know, you guys want to check this bike out, come on down to NGM Rides. They have a great selection of used and new bikes. They will help you out and help you make the right decision. You can throw your leg over one of these bikes and take it for a ride yourself. As always, ride safe, have fun. We'll see you on the next one.